GM. GM. This is what I'm excited for, okay? We got a patch note, but I'm not going to go through that patch notes because today was supposed to be my account showcase day, but this came out, so this takes precedence. But the most important thing is we are getting a balance adjustment for SS1 season of RTA. So I want to go through it, give you guys my thoughts, give you guys my reaction to it. It's not a live reaction, I've already seen it, and go through the reasonings and how I think through things, okay? And without further ado, let's get into it, okay? The first one we have here is Helkit, and Helkit basically got his third skill damage increase, and his barrier is now thicker. Cool. But that's not the important part about Helkit. The important part about Helkit is the second part, where his short barrier now has a new effect where it goes absorbs the damage equivalent to its value, that's barrier. While active, the allies are immune to all debuffs, so we know what that was already, but this is the important part. When the shroud barrier effect expires, so dispel, destroy, whatever, as long as that buff is gone, it increases the allies' turn meter by 15%. And this is quite important because Helkit is already, you know, the third fastest unit in the game, right? The fastest being Plume, second fastest being Kloss, third fastest being Helkit and Lily, okay? And so you can definitely play him as a, you know, pseudo immunity provider that now also turn meter pushes your units. And so I think this is very, very strong, especially when you play him with, you know, in a Rev Cleave setup. And even if you're not playing in a Rev Cleave setup, you can definitely use him to punish your opponent for trying to break your barrier and then get pushed 15% on the turn meters so that you actually take a turn, shake off the debuffs if you ever get a debuff, or before they can even apply the debuff, and kill them. And so this is quite important, especially if you're trying to play aggro. He is going to definitely take up a supporter's slot in your draft, but that's about it. Okay, he still does some damage. You're going to be building him with, you know, a lot of speed and, you know, mostly going to be focusing on his attacks so they can get a larger shield. But that's about it. I think he is not bad. I think because of this turn meter increase, we can definitely use him with more success. Whether the meta allows him to, we don't know yet. We have to see what Kakadi is going to do. We got to see what Aya is going to do and go from there. Okay? Second one, Rosa. Rosa is now definitely going to get the Blade Heart Bloom if you crit. So this is just basically, you know, PvE stuff. You're never ever going to really use Rosa in any RTA situation unless you are Rev Cleaving and, you know, they've taken Messiah and Yeli. Rosa is like that pick you take just in case your actual DPS is taken. But definitely landing this is more of a PvE thing, in my opinion. Tsukiyo Mi, now her S2 reduces the cooldown of skills of all allies and shells, including her. When you're using Tsukiyo Mi, right now in this meta, we are using Tsukiyo Mi to just push, kill, and that's it. Alright, so this is more of, you know, a pseudo Lily for your PvE if you don't have Lily, which you should not have a problem anymore coming with the LD selector coming. But this is a nice change for, you know, a lot grindier matches when, you know, you eventually want to move down into bruiser matchups and you want to use Tsukiyo Mi as like that you know, that tempo giver. So I can see this as a future-proof thing, but right now there is no real application for it in RTA. Alright? Borgne, or Borgne as I like to call it. His S1 now deals a lot more damage, 30% more damage, and heals a lot more. So now his lifesteal is actually significant. Okay, 60% was not enough. Because you have to remember that Borgne cannot crit. And because he cannot crit, his damage is naturally not going to be as high as you would like it, right? And so if the damage is already not going to be there, then the healing needs to make up for it. You know, so if you're going to be doing, let's say, 60% of fucking, what? 1k damage, let's just say, okay, you're still not, you're not healing, you're not healing a lot. You need to have more healing based off that damage you do. So this is a good change for him, but that's not the real reason why he's now good. The real reason why he's good now is his third skill, where his third skill does 520% damage to all enemies, so that's a nice boost in his multipliers, and a 100% chance to now dispel 2 debuffs instead of 1. Because if you really think about it, even Viper, who is a single hit, you know, stripper, already strips 2, and an SR unit, there's no reason why Borgne can't strip 2 buffs. Okay? That already makes him very, very good. He's already nice to have in your box, and if you 5-5-5 this guy is actually a bit crazy. Okay, because he gets all the kind of good stuff, and you have synergy with Dark Moon and all that good stuff, Tiger Yin, whatever, and he does 2 debuffs now, 520% damage multiplier to his S3, so he's gonna hit pretty damn hard. Has a good lifesteal amount now, or at least a respectable one, and his S1 does more damage, which also ties in with this, so I like it. Okay, I think that's it. That's all I really want to talk about with Borgne. So let's move on. Now, Xiada. Xiada got buffed. I've already been using Xiada for a long time. I've been cleaning people with Xiada already, so this benefits me a lot. Her skill 2, or basically, you know, her passive. Each time Xiada accumulates 3 buffs, the surrounding soul flames evolves 1 time. So every orb she gets an 18% increase in her attack, and now she gets 30% effect resistance, she gets 10% crit damage, and reduced damage taken by 15%. So in total, you are going to get a 54% attack increase, you're going to get 90% F-Rest for free, 30% extra crit damage, and your damage is reduced to 45% of the damage taken, okay? Which is basically almost a mini blood buff, or maybe a blood buff on 90% capacity when you get her the 3 stacks. Now the problem with that is that you still have to get the 3 stacks to get all of this effects. And so you still have to run Xiada relatively bruisery. You can't just Unga Bunga put Revelation on her, take her in with nothing, and only one way to get 1 orb. You're still dying. You're still dying. And so you need to protect her till she gets this 3 stacks, and then she can be self-sufficient. Okay? Next. The Soul Flames. That's basically the same thing. That is basically the same thing. Alright? So, real quick. Guys, real quick. I already have a build. She's already ready. I've already had a build for the longest time. I have already been using her, and this is how I use her. So this buff, give it to me. Give it to me. I want to play with my mummy. Cool. Next one. Let's go back to the patch. Nahor. Now, Nahor has always been, in my opinion, pretty fucking strong if you skill him up. Okay? And so now his S2 does this. I'm gonna just make it sound simple for you guys. Full strip, buff block, freeze. I'll say that again. S2 is a single target, full strip, buff block, freeze. Okay? You know what that means? It means that now Nahor doesn't have to always open with S3. If you see a unit that you actually cannot stand or you cannot deal with properly, you can always start your rotation with an S2 now. Stun off a key unit, buff block them, and then when it wraps around, that unit is still frozen again because of his S3. And now his S3 does 2 hits. It used to be a 300% attack, which is a 1 hit. Now it's broken up into 2 inches of 150%, which still equals 300%. But now you have 2 chances to land defense down and rest down, which is new. You get rest down now. Okay? and then you freeze them for 1 turn. This unit is going to be absolutely scary in RTA for those who believed in Nahor and built them. Okay? Next, Ninfoniel. Now this is a nice change to Ninfoniel. Ninfoniel now gets cleanses 2 debuffs from each ally when she presses S2, equalizes HP, heals them up, and 2 debuffs is just instantly cleansed. This means that Ninfoniel will always be able to cleanse 2 debuffs, and I'll tell you why. It's because she's going to start with an S3 with a 1 turn immunity already, and if you build her on immunity, she is naturally going to put that up, so she is always going to press S2 regardless. Regardless, she is always pressing S2. And so, because she is already always pressing S2, you're definitely going to be cleansing 2 debuffs. And so this is now very good for her, because you can definitely bring her into CC comps now, especially when you see your opponent playing CC, and they only have 1 stripper, you ban the stripper, you bring Ninfoniel, you now have a unit that puts immunity and 80% attack buff. And if anything goes sideways, at least you still have a skill 2 to cleanse 2 debuffs, health equalize, and heal. Okay? So I like this change. Lilith. Lilith, second skill, which is the explosion, deals 1 additional instance of damage equal to 25% of the target's max HP, main target's max HP. So more damage. More damage. Okay? And the Graceful Mischief effect now is just this. Alright? 25% of the afflicted max HP. This is good because when you play Lilith, you're definitely playing Lilith in a bruiser team comp, fighting against bruisers. And you need to do more damage than just, a little tickle here, a little tickle there. Because all her damage is on this Graceful Mischief debuff. And if you can make that do more damage, that means you're taxing their healers a lot more. And if you're taxing their healers a lot more, that means something is going to die. Eventually, and a lot sooner. Next, Celince. Celince has this new thing now where at the start of the battle applies a shield to all enemies equal to 30% of max HP. So this is a very nice anti-cleave mechanic in my opinion. We don't know if this is her actual, that aqua shield. But we know it's a shield. We have to see in game what happens to her. But if this is just a shield, it's nice. But if this is a, that reflect shield that she puts up, holy shit. You just get rid of the, what do you call it? Of the stripper. And you can just let them kill themselves. If it's not a Messiah, they are killing themselves. It's fucking funny. Okay? But this is nice. This is nice for her. Her S3 now, instead of putting attack down, puts crit rate down. So this is they're making her more RTA friendly. Because attack down is nice, but crit rate down is also very good. Because if your opponent cannot utilize the crit rate, that means they are not getting the crit damage multiplier. And so not everybody runs their shit on 130% effect crit rate. So you're naturally already dropping that down to 70% chance. And then if they are going into an opposite element, that's another 30% shaved off. So now they're going in with a 40% crit. And if they don't crit, they are doing 100 damage to you. Figurative number. But you get my point. Hoyan, S3, now does a lot more damage. Which means if she ever pops this S3, she is guaranteed to kill something. And her problem was she could not kill bruisers efficiently. So being able to do this kind of damage, okay, is a lot better now. Because when you try to go into a bruiser, Hoyan's S3 doesn't really kill, it severely damages them. And sometimes people build their DPS on Bloodbath and this sometimes does not kill. Now my Hoyan's cracked, so my Hoyan will kill. But not a lot of people won't kill. And this actually gives meaning to Hoyan's S3 now. Because she's always going to press that twice, remember? Once when she dies, and then 1 again on her turn. Yeli. Yeli S1 now does a bit more damage and has a much higher chance to steal a buff. Good. Good. This is nice for Yeli. Sutomu gets basic stat upgrades, which is nice because he's one of those damage dealers that if you bring in a debuffer comp, you need 0 crit, you just need max crit damage, max attack, and you'll just crit anyway. Nell has now improved, and now she is a little bit faster, which is good because that's what we need from her. Initially, why people don't really use Nell is because you had to invest so much into her speed to actually make her get the proper speed tuning. Victor is now doing more damage for every 10% decrease in HP. And I like that. I like that now they are adding Victor as another DPS option, which is a free one because everyone can get an SR unit. So besides the thing, which the thing is only really good for PvE because you can manage where that mark is going to go. Victor, you can choose who you want to kill, which is good. Okay. Rin. Now this is the red Rin, Wild Rampage Rin. Her taunt is now 100% chance, so you can build her more tanky with less effect accuracy. That's nice for her. And the SR Rin, or the blue Rin, I would say, the S2 is now doing a bit more damage. Because that S2, let's be real, it's a little bit, lackluster, for lack of better term. Kazuyo, I don't have a lot of experience with her, but bringing this cooldown to 1 or 2 is pretty good for PvE. And now you get accuracy up as well for her S3, which is nice so that you can, for the early game progressors in the game, they can now get their debuffs to land a lot better. And now, the first nerf, Kazuyo the Reverie, which is the sleepy Kazuyo. Everyone has said that she is the most annoying CC unit in the game. I agree if you're playing Bruiser. But for me, in the 85 games that I played RTA, Kazuyo was drafted 0 times into me because of the way I play. And so, going from 2 turns to 1 turn for the S1 makes a whole lot more sense, because having a 2-turn sleep with that S1 is kinda nuts for an SR unit. It's kinda insane. And the second skill, which is basically your turn meter pushback, has now dropped a little bit more. So now you're not perma sleeping someone, because usually when you sleep someone you don't want to touch them, but when it's Kazuyo's turn and everyone's asleep, you can still use Kazuyo to damage them, push them back, and keep them asleep for a much longer time. I think this is a good change. Now it will be a lot more manageable. She's still toxic, but manageable, and she's not impacted in a way where your Doki run is going to be all fucked up now. Okay? RC77's S3 is now in sync with Revelation, and we got some shell adjustments. So Alicon is now dispelling 3 debuffs. Good. We needed this from Alicon already, because if you guys didn't know, during a few betas ago, Alicon used to just cleanse everything. It used to be the best shell. You could not ever CC, it could just cleanse everything, and they felt that was too fucking broken. And then came the beta, the actual beta. He went from infinite debuffs, dispelling debuffs, to 2, and stayed at 2 for the longest time. But now that CC is so fucking rampant and annoying to fight against, this Alicon is good, because you put it on a unit that really needs to get the debuffs cleansed so that they can do their thing. For example, let's say a Lingluo, let's say a Doki. This is a perfect change for them, because if they try to stack debuffs, now you have more chances of getting rid of more. That means your chances of getting rid of the actual debuff that you need to get rid of is much, much higher. White Fang now gets less stacks but more damage in the long run. So you could stack up to 60%, but now you're getting, what's this? A bit more damage early on. And let's be real here, you're never ever going to get the 10 stacks if you're playing RTA, and if you're using White Fang there, so getting the initial 8% damage is a lot better, because the most you're gonna get is maybe 2 stacks when you're playing RTA. Okay? Anything more in PvP, PvE is overkill. You're already winning anyway, you know? Halloween. After the host acts, there's a 100% chance to cooldown 1 skill for by 1 turn. So now this is no longer, you know, a, what do you call it, an RNG shell anymore. This is a good shell now, because you can just press something and it instantly cools down. Now another nerf to Codex of Magic. This is another nerf besides a unit nerf. And the most important part here is this. In PvP modes, after being affected by Codex of Magic, skills that did not go on cooldown will have their maximum cooldown permanently increased by 1 turn. And so this confuses a lot of people. It confused me a little bit, but after dissecting it and talking to my community in Discord, this is what it does. Basically, let's use Obo as an example. If you go into an RTA match with Codex of Magic Obo and you see your opponent on full immunity, you are forced to press S2. And because you press S2, your S3 now goes from a 4-turn cooldown to a 5-turn cooldown. Does that make sense? Okay, so when you press your S2, you wrap around, you press S3, instead of having a 4-turn cooldown now, your S3 now has a 5-turn cooldown. And this stacks as you go. If you proc Codex Magic again, you know what's gonna happen? The same thing's gonna happen. So if you do the same sequence I just said at the start, you are going to get a 6-turn cooldown on your S3. Okay? So how do you use Codex of Magic now? I think you should be using Codex of Magic on units that only have 2 skills, which is S1, S3, because the S2 is a passive. So who are we talking about here? We can talk about, for example, Borgne. We can talk about Plume. We can talk about Kazuyo. That kind of stuff. You get the idea? Cool. And last but not least, the arena effect. We are just having much faster games now. So damage will be increased to 20% and healing will be reduced by 20% after 20 turns. After 20 turns. Okay, so that is good. That is good. Oh, it also increased. Once the first one is on 20 turns, and then every 15 turns, another 20% increase, another 20% decrease. All right, that's good. That means your bruiser matchups are not going to take fucking forever, where you know you're just touching each other's shield, you're hitting each other's healer, they're healing back up, you're not doing any damage for at least 160 turns, that kind of shit. Good. I like this change. Overall, what do I think? I think this is fantastic. This balance patch does not feel like, oh my god, this unit is now the most broken thing under the sun. Alright? It made Helkit now sound viable, because now you can play around with this turn meter thing. Rosa now does some good stuff if you really have trouble using Rosa in, you know, PvE, which ideally you shouldn't have a problem anymore. Tsukiyo Mi, now this is future proofing her. Makes her feel a lot better to use in PvE and in longer fights. Borgne now is a much more viable character, even though he's been buffed twice already and this is his 3rd time. But all of this are meaningful changes to Borgne, and it does not change the identity of him. Xiada now can be played like a bruiser, like how I've always anticipated it, even in my podcast with Vulcan. I've already said that, you know, you play Xiada as a bruiser because you need to get all of this up and running before you can just have one skill, and one skill is called S3. Okay? Nahor, this is a good change to him. Doesn't change how he functions, but it definitely helps smooth out his sequencing. Right? The freeze for 1 turn is huge. Huge. Because imagine going into a Linglore, and you know that Linglore is going to purify everything, and you still have another rotation coming through of, you know, units that you want to CC. Freeze the bitch. Okay? Double hit, also nice. Now you have 2 chances to proc. Very cool. Ninfoniel now cleanses 2 debuffs. I like this. Now she is, you know, a decent supporter that also does healing somewhat. Lilith does more damage. You play that into bruises. That is what you want anyway. You don't want to, you know, be doing no damage, and now they have to really think about getting rid of your mischief, which is your debuff. Celince now starts with a 30% shield based on her max HP, which is nice for anti-cleaving. We don't know if this is a shield for thingy, that is her aqua shield, but if it is, even better. Okay, crit attack down, the crit rate down, I already explained that. Hoyan more damage, very good. Yeli more damage, more chances of, stealing boss, very good. Stat buff to the Suzutomu and Nell. Victor gets more damage. Rin now can guarantee her taunt with just a little bit of effect accuracy. Rin Dian Bow does a little bit more damage on S2. Kazuyo. PvE stuff buff, whatever. Kazuyo, actual nerf. This is a good nerf. We might get a reset event. We can pray we get a reset event, but I doubt it because it's an SR unit. And that's about it. I won't go through the shells, right? Oh, RC77 now is in sync with fucking Revelation. Huzzah. Okay. The only good thing that I see here that I like is the Alicon one and the Halloween one. Makes Halloween a whole lot better. Okay. Codex of Magic, I've just explained this, so I don't have to explain again, but that is my thoughts. Very good changes. I am excited for SS1 Season RTA. I might play more this time. Because I want to test stuff, I want to cook some builds, and we'll go from there. The game is matured enough where, we played long enough to have, units built. So I'm excited for RTA. But that's it, guys. What did you think about this balance patch? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.